Straight Beyond, Episode 8. We've got a lot to talk about today. Goose just laid down a 2.5-hour monster festival set at Floydfest. Ben Atkins' side project and Fredfest artist ElephantProof dropped their debut EP. Last Friday. Vasudo announced their debut album, Call It Lewis, to drop August 6th. And that PH band from Vermont is back on tour. You know, good news because we got some space freed up on the bathroom lines at Goose, but bad news because Bruce is once again getting a full inbox of complaints about Torch Talk.
Sorry, Bruce. But with Fred Festival creeping up in our schedules, we wanted to dig a... But, sorry, Bruce. With Fred Fest creeping up in our schedules, we wanted to dedicate an entire episode to the late night act for Night 1. ElephantProof is expected to burn down Garcia's Forest. Happy birthday, Jerry. And we spoke with lead guitarist Sean Cronin about all things ElephantProof.
Yeah, and we'll also be talking with Berkeley athlete and potato expert Ben Atkins. He's here to give us some background on the new EP, some of their history, and why their late night set at Fred will be, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the set of the weekend. But with these new releases, the excitement around Fred is building, which is just a couple of weeks away all of a sudden. But beyond Fred, I mean, we do need to talk about that Floydfest set quickly. So Goose just recently, last Friday, played at Floydfest in Virginia, which from someone who didn't go, I've heard nothing but great things about this festival. People who are regular attendants of the festival love it. People seem to have a really great time this year. Shout out to Emily Wallace, who went down and took pictures for Goose on that night that they played on Friday.
Goose, and she got Melt. She got Billy Strings.
Oh, really? Oh, she covered a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Also, shout out to Garrett Woodward at Rolling Stone for talking to the guys, too.
Oh, that's right, because they did get a little piece in Rolling Stone when they covered this festival. But, I mean, that's how big this festival is. Billy Strings, another big act that obviously like a lot of people are really into right now, is also playing there the next night. But Goose's festival set was... really, I mean, pretty outstanding for most fest sets. And obviously, you know, people kind of poo-poo a fest set as a standard set. And Goose came out. They definitely did play some hits, but they played for 2.5 hours, like Joey mentioned, which is huge. And they actually laid down a killer set, starting off with an All I Need Into Flow Down, which is like a kind of cool 1-2 punch that they're doing lately, and they always have these great transitions now. There's one from Frederick that is absolutely insane, and people I know on the stream couldn't tell whether or not it was Flow Down or not. Obviously I knew right away, but then they played a Mississippi Half Step, which is my favorite Goose Grateful Dead cover. Slow Ready after that, an Empress that was
early Empress,
mid set, and it was really like a killer Empress. Also, Trevor Weeks' birthday that night going into Saturday. So that Empress actually highlighted him a little bit for a really long kind of like bass solo. Trevor Bass. Actually directly related to Lance Bass. So that's where that name comes from.
He was ripping the Lance.
But he was on it for a while. They usually don't have him out there like standing out on his own for that long. And it was really sick. Got into a Modavon that was also awesome. Then led into a This Old C. I want to shout out. The longest This Old C, it really went out there and went into some really cool space after they got through the lyrical sections. I know a couple of my good friends, Eric and Angela, loved the song. Peter Russo, big fan of This Old C. Just want to call them out. They've been listening to this on repeat nonstop, you know. But it was killer, and it was definitely a highlight. They released that on YouTube, so you can go watch it. And then the Jive 1 and the Jive Lee was also a killer part of that set. The Jive Lee was different than usual, and they really crushed it. But at least for you guys, like, what was some of your favorite parts listening back on that set?
Well, I think the only thing you didn't mention, the Arcadia Encore, was fire. And, listening back, like, what I'm starting to realize is there's not really a such thing as like a Goose festival set. You know, you have a lot of bands that you see at festivals and you kind of know what's coming. Like, they have had this astronomical rise in the sense that we haven't seen them year over year, like climbing stages at festivals. Like they're the way that like I'd go to Gathering the Vibes and I'd see someone go from Green Vibes to, you know, Late Night to the main stage, like, you know, or really kind of any festival. You know, a lot of bands really build year over year. I mean, like the next time they play Peach, it'll be interesting to see what stage they're on, you know,
and at what time.
And so, like, I really don't think, I mean, there's certainly, like, the hits that we know and, like, you can expect an Arcadia at a big show. But I don't really think that there's, like, there's a quintessential festival set for Goose. Joey, what do you think?
I think there is definitely a vibe that they have to kind of take into consideration, at least months ago, it felt like going down to Suwannee, like this is a lot of new people that are potentially going to be listening to us. Like, do they go into that thinking, all right, now we have to bring them kind of these songs that grabbed most of our fans that they talk about? Or do they say, all right, what are we just best at playing at this moment right now and bring it to these people? I mean, I would like to ask them. I would like to know, you know, if they have that intention in the back of their mind that this is a festival, let's do the set list a little bit different. But well, I know there is definitely not one that they do, you know, over and over, just key points.
And even at this point in their career, I mean, they still, like you said, Peter asked in Denver on night one, you know, how many people here are just seeing us for the first time?
Oh, the Peter Poll. Can we call it the Peter Poll?
We could call the Peter Poll, definitely. Peter Poll. And obviously, like, most of the crowd responded to that. Obviously, we knew people that responded to that and that have seen them many times.
I like to raise my hand sometimes.
Right. I'm excited at the question. Right.
First time here.
But to be honest, I'm sure there were tons of people at that show and at both nights in Denver that it was their first time. And same with Suwannee months ago and same with all these shows in between. So you do want to play the hits for people. You do want to play songs like Modifon. You do want to play Arcadia, Empress. Like, these are songs that people love. I love Mississippi for one of their Dead covers. So it's like you want to play the hits, but they really, you know, just still put on a consistently stellar show. It's still a Goose show. They got to play them in all of these places. So it really does kind of, you know, render that whole concept of a more standard or, you know, more basic and lots of times maybe not up in the echelon of the best shows, fest set kind of concept kind of renders it moot when it comes to when the Goose guys play.
Yeah, definitely. And all these, this festival talk, how they approach it. I mean, they have their own festival coming up with not only Goose, but other side projects they get to play with. So
look at our host just weaving it right in to the whole a 3-man weave here. You know?
If only you knew how bad my basketball game was today.
My knee is hurting.
Well, we've got this festival. Fred, coming up. Obviously, you guys are lucky enough to go. I will be on site visits with our manager, but it's going to be incredible, right? And I think we'll figure out what a real Goose festival set is after Fred. And in that tune, we've got some special guests. This is not a Goose podcast, as we know.
No.
This is an ElephantProof podcast.
We're getting a little grittier now.
Getting a little grittier.
Getting a little older, a little more mature. Some rough patches in my life. I'm ready for some dirty carnival kind of stuff.
So, to all you listeners, baby, why don't you come on over here to Krampus's workshop? Because we're going to head down the pathway with Sean Cronin, guitarist of ElephantProof, playing Friday late night at Fred.
Yeah, and somebody else, I guess everybody might know.
That's right.
A little drummer that we know.
The little drummer boy, Ben Atkins, playing with ElephantProof at Fred the Festival.
Yeah.
Also with Goose for a few sets.
Yep. Can't wait.
For a few. Yeah.
For a few sets.
See how many lasts.
Yeah.
So,
stay tuned for a couple good interviews.
Hopefully.
We'll see.
Yo,
This is not a Goose podcast. As a matter of fact, it's an ElephantProof podcast. Great Beyond, we're here with Sean Cronin, the guitarist of ElephantProof. Sean, how are you today?
I am doing fantastic, Greg. How you doing?
Can't complain, can't complain. Just sitting here with my co-hosts who will be attending Fred the Festival. I will not
Very
be.
nice.
So my
No!
Yeah.
my FOMO intensifies. And with that, I will defer my first question since I won't be there.
Our podcast manager runs a tight ship.
Vacation days are hard to come by.
I'm just enjoying the air in my backyard, hanging out with my dog.
Nice.
It's good, man.
Yeah.
I'm here to hang.
Life is good, man. So, Sean, to start off, for those Goose fans who may not know all the details around ElephantProof, myself included, can you give us some background maybe on the other members of the band and how you all kind of came to find each other?
Absolutely. Honestly, of any group of musicians I think I've ever played with, I think this was like the most organic melding of the minds. We met on a recording session like a bunch of years ago, and we started showing up on the same gigs around Boston, like club gigs, private event gigs and stuff. It's kind of a big Boston circuit. There's a lot of great musicians floating around.
Yeah.
So we literally met on a recording session, and we were like, yo, this kid's sick. We were like, we got to get Chris in right on this gig. I think Gordo and I were playing as a trio at the time. We had a couple drummers we were working with. We had like Rory from La Special on a couple gigs.
Oh, cool.
Nice. Shout out to La Special.
Yeah, man. And we still talk about that. That was a great night of jams. We did one at Hard Rock Cafe in Boston, and probably, dude, it must have been like 2013. It's so long ago at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got together and just like crazy shit started happening. We definitely started out with more of a traditional sound in terms of like playing funk and soul, because we were all playing with a lot of like neo soul artists in the city. Mm-hmm. We were playing a lot of funk, jazz. And that's definitely how it started, was like crazy fusion music and like R&B mixed together. And then we were like, we have a lot of like kind of half-assed jams. We need to get some concise material. So I had some songs kind of lying around that I had just done as projects, and Gordo had kind of the same thing, except mine was like my attempt at like early house music production, and Gordo's was like evil demon bastard child, like evil genius, like circus music.
Yeah.
And I was, yo, this is sick. Like all of this.
We hear a little of that on that album.
Oh,
that
100%.
Yes,
for sure.
yes, we do. There's like
that evil circus music, man. I can hear the keys in my head.
It's totally our vibe. I just love the way it throws everyone in the room off, including the band. We're like, whoa, we're awake now. And I think it just kind of in the same way that like a movie or a story flows with different scenes. I always like a night of music or like an album of music to kind of flow. I hate the idea of like hit singles, because like I like to write a longer story than that, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, so we started incorporating like some house electro music that I had lying around and turning it into a live band version of that. And same thing with Gordo's music. And we peppered in some jams that we had at live shows. We got them on camera, put them on YouTube and stuff. And we were like, oh, I like this part. So we kept that. I like this part. We kept that. Ooh, that didn't work. Trash that. And then peppered those in like more complete compositions that we already kind of had lying around before the band existed. So yeah, it was like a mishmash of like whatever original music we could find. And it just, the songs as ElephantProof plays them are so different than like the projects we had lying around our bedrooms. We enhanced them hugely. But that was kind of the source material that started it all.
You can also hear those segments in the album, like just the way that some of the songs are pieced together and the way the whole album is pieced together. It flows. Like you can hear a kind of concise sound. You guys build a sound around this diverse, unique kind of sound that you guys are working with. But yeah, I mean, you can
man. That was a huge goal of mine, was to make sure that the record flowed very quickly. It
does, dude. And honestly, it's almost too quick. I texted Ben earlier today, and when I was listening to it, I was like, man, I actually wish there were more songs on it. Obviously, it's an EP, so it's not the longest record, but
no, totally. I wanted it to be concise, and I wanted it to be mostly about the compositions rather than extensive jamming. And I'll say this: if we were to play those same 7 songs live, it would probably take an hour to get through them.
Yeah, definitely.
Even
could see
records
that.
Happen.
That's what I was curious about, is you're mentioning making the album flow and recorded music flow. What about approaching a live show, putting together a set list? What kind of approach is there?
Amazing. That's a really good question, because one thing that I think we all shared was our ability to read a crowd. When we first started playing, I was like, yo, these guys know how to read a room like me, we're on the page right there.
Okay, nice.
So if we're playing at say we were playing at Lollapalooza, I'd probably play the record note for note. But at any jam band festival, we were going to stretch those out, and they're going to loosely resemble what's on the album,
Okay, nice.
I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
That's what Ben said. He couldn't wait when I was texting him earlier to stretch those out live, and I'm definitely looking forward to that.
I can't, man, when we get in the zone, we're locked, really busy, in a way I haven't bands,
Yeah.
We're just listening to each other really well, which is the other thing that we all saw. And if you talk to a jazz musician and you're like, oh, what do you think of that guy's playing? And he says something along the lines of oh, that guy's a good listener. That's the highest compliment you can pay in the jazz world,
right? Because
it's all about listening to the other cats on stage and following their story that they're trying to tell,
For sure.
Yeah, man, I cannot wait.
Yeah, right. And I'm most excited that it's the late night set too, because listening to the album, it really played to I'm picturing this dark in the forest, really bright lights type of vibe. Do you have any expectations for what the people are going to see as opposed to hear?
Man, I hope it gets weird as fuck in the forest.
Oh, dude, it will.
Right, nice.
I will be in the forest making things really weird for people around me, so we got that going for us. Yeah, at least that.
Can we get one of those, at the car dealerships where they got the guy that's inflatable, but he's flopping around?
Yeah, the flying inflatable arm man thing.
Yeah, I think I kind of want to get one of those guys.
We're going to get 6.
Yeah. At least some prime number, maybe.
Right on a big beat drop, just throw up the squirrely guys.
Just going to form tackle one of them during it.
I might.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I'm going to try and keep my head clear before the show. I'm definitely going to go up there, focused, but no promises for the rest of the weekend.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, speaking of the rest of the weekend, there's a whole bunch of musicians who will be there who you've performed with before.
Yes.
We've seen you sit in with Goose before. I think the last time I did was at Down the Road Brewing, 2019. Great show.
Oh, yeah. That was probably the last time I think that was it.
Yeah.
So do you think we'll see you on stage at all, outside of ElephantProof at Fred?
I would absolutely love to get in and do some jamming. I mean, Corey Wong, I'm a huge Corey Wong fan.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to sit in on a Corey Wong gig.
Yeah, but maybe he sits in with you guys and does some weird shit at late night.
He could be the wiggly
dude,
arm
if
guy.
he's there a day early, I'm totally going to be like, yo, come slap a tune, bro. Let's do this. If I see him, man, I guess it is dependent on exactly what type of state I'm in, if I'm still functioning.
Well, that's up to all of our listeners.
I'm just supposed to do some interviews while we're down there for this podcast, and hopefully Joey's okay, is what I'm thinking. So I get it completely.
Dude, I respect people that have to remain professional for the entire length of a festival like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, hell yeah.
World of respect. That's not easy.
So, I think speaking of like everyone that's what I've heard feedback from on the album has talked about the diversity of sound, and just how impressive it is that you guys can literally switch on a dime, to do completely different things. So, you know, I know you started playing with neo soul artists, and there's a whole lot of like let's play Jerry songs, you know, as people kind of progress through the ropes. But I think Elephant Proof is so different. So where does the sound really come from? Like artists that have directly impacted you guys, starting with jazz and then kind of expanding from there.
Sorry, I'm lighting a cigarette. Hold on.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I've been smoking a vape this whole time, so I feel you.
I took up smoking at age 35.
That's your greatest influence.
Such a dumbass. It was because of quarantine. I was like, I need a fucking cigarette right now.
I feel you.
And now I'm on the train all the way. Yeah, coffee cigs. But
You
man,
potential sponsors?
American Spirit, hook me up. Yeah. I'm an American Spirit endorsed artist.
I'll take it. I mean,
I'm fucking sprinkling cigarettes into the crowd at every show.
As long as we're saying companies are our sponsors falsely, might as well give a shout out to American Spirit.
Yeah. Just
it's like the lawsuits in the mail.
Yeah. Come for the music, stay for the spirits. So
the crowd wouldn't leave after the show. We didn't know why.
Because the cigarettes last so long. You have to play a 4-hour set. Smoke one American Spirit.
Does that band have any more yellow packs of spirits?
Sorry, it's only the light blues. The crowd's like, boo, you suck.
Get off the stage.
What were we talking about? Influences?
Yeah, I mean, but this is what I'm talking about. I mean, that's what I want to know is where the sound's coming from. We can say like, sure, let's play Coltrane notes, but we all know it doesn't sound good without an American Spirit in your mouth.
Damn right.
I mean, are you really a jazz musician? If you're not.
Right.
No,
so
but
let me rephrase the question. Do you have a lighter?
Yeah, hold on. Here you go. Give that back when you're done.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, don't pocket that lighter.
I'll give it back to you, Fred.
Now you have to go. You got to give me my lighter back.
Bring your lighter back. It'll be the only one.
Yeah.
So man, yeah, like Gordo and I grew up playing like heavy metal when we were like 12-year-olds, you know, on opposite sides of the country. I didn't meet him until we were in college, but man, it turns out we knew all of the same music. We started out as metalheads. We got into jazz. We got into fusion, and we were the whole time into hip hop, electronic, and like reggae and like all that stuff. I had a pretty crazy like time in high school going to see different types of music. I got into going to like underground raves when I was like 16.
Nice.
And that was a huge influence on me. You know, like a kid walking into like a huge warehouse with like 2,000 people in it going super
Just
hard.
raging,
I was like, this is hip.
Yeah.
I was like, jazz is cool, but like this is pretty cool too.
Yeah. Not wrong.
I mean, but that's basically what jazz was back in the day. Like, you know?
Right. And at that time,
like
I was going like, by the time I got into raves, like my most recent concerts have been like Limp Bizkit and like anything with a mosh pit. I was like, I'm there.
Okay.
All right.
And then I got, super into jazz and like all this stuff kind of at the same time. And I think that is kind of the point of music school, is so that you can master the language of music and use it freely, applicate it freely, and be able to really assimilate like a lot of different styles that you like.
Yeah.
Like if you legitimately love music or like a particular style of music and you have the capability to learn it quickly, you do that. And that also came in super in handy as a session musician because, you know, I'm able to, I've experimented with a lot of styles. I played in all jazz funk ensembles at Berkeley for my first 3 semesters. And then my 4th semester, I was like, fuck it. And I joined the bluegrass ensemble.
Oh, nice.
And I showed up the first day and they were like, all right, let's trade solos. And we're like, okay, they got like a fiddle player and a banjo player.
Sick.
And then they're like, all right, now you. And I play like all this John Coltrane shit I've been learning recently. And the guy stops the band and he's like, what in the hell was all of that? But Gordo had like similar experiences. You know, he was playing in cool ensembles, and same with Ben and Chris. Actually, yeah. I think we were all playing in pretty similar like school ensembles. And man, we grew up around the same time, and we were all obsessed with like all types of music, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, we all studied, you know, kind of the same method, the Berklee method of like ear training and harmony and stuff. So we spoke that language together pretty well. And yeah, man, I think the goal of art is to like become an amalgamation of everything you've ever heard that's stuck with you, and put your own signature on it, you know? That's kind of the goal. And I think that's another thing that we spotted in each other. We were like, wow, this kid has mastered that instrument and can play anything he needs to at any time. It's like, I'm talking about Chris Henright right now.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Doc, I mean, we've always been espousing Doc's skills since we saw him play with Goose, man.
Right. By the way, Doc's not an arbitrary nickname. He has a doctorate of music from New England Conservatory, which is on par with Juilliard as one of the best conservatories on the planet. So we went to Berklee for undergrad, which is less conservatory based, more like you get to kind of choose your own path in music.
Mm-hmm. You can take the bluegrass elective.
Like you are going to learn all this classical music, you know?
Yeah. That's wild.
And he made it to that, which is like the Navy SEALs of fucking jazz. Like he's also the MVP on the album. Dude.
Doc's like crawling out of the water with a keyboard attached to his back, you know, it's like dragging another one behind him.
In a wetsuit.
Yeah. Throws you a guitar song, you know. Crazy shit. Yeah, crazy shit.
Yeah, man. And that's
so
pretty much like it's a direct expression of like all the weird influences we've ever come across in our life, and trying to make something that nobody else had like exactly done that yet.
Well, you can definitely, even though we talked about that album seems quick, like you get that point across in that album. We talked about the segments, but you can hear so many different influences even on one song, and it really comes across. One thing I wanted to ask you, Sean, was you had mentioned that Gordon, you and Sean Gordon came from different coasts. Where were you from Massachusetts or like the East Coast originally, and Sean was from out west?
Yep, I grew up in Boston area, and I almost went to University of Miami and University of North Texas, but I ended up going to Berklee. He's from Santa Rosa, California, deep in wine country.
Yeah,
actually, his mom is a sommelier, a licensed sommelier, and works at like wine vineyards and like writes articles for like wine magazines.
Nice.
We've been up there to visit her a couple times. It's fucking heaven. Like these guys are
beautiful.
A lifestyle.
It's crazy, man. That's cool.
Shit. But yeah, somehow we got together, and we're definitely very different personalities, but we were just like homies from the start. Actually, we met at a jam session in Imagine Dragons' basement.
Oh my God. One of my favorite bands.
yeah, they're great. Gordo was their roommate.
Wow. Shit.
So I was hanging out at a party next door, and he showed up, and I was like, yeah, let's go have a jam. I'm fucked up.
Man. I mean, music industry and the music world in general just never ceases to amaze me how small it is, dude. How many really connections and how many people. It's crazy, dude. So many people
really is.
Rooming in people's basements and stuff. It's wild.
Yep, absolutely. And this was like 5 years before Imagine Dragons existed, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. You're talking about like the relationships you built, and it sounds like really strong relationships. I'm wondering how the decision came to be made to make this album together. Was it something that had been growing over a few years to put this down as an EP?
Well, that's a big question. We recorded this EP in December of 2014. I don't know if I told anybody that yet. Whoa. I think I might have forgotten. We went into the studio for 3 days in the end of 2014 and banged these out, and all of those tracks that were recorded that day are on the album, but we laced it up.
Oh wow.
With a lot of extra stuff on top of it.
I did not know that. That's crazy.
And yeah, we worked good on to put in the press release.
Yeah, I mean, initially the whole thing kind of gave me anxiety about putting it out because I was like, oh man, I hope this isn't dated. Like,
no, definitely not.
A
lot has changed.
Fresh, yeah.
But basically, Chris and I laced it up with all types of extra parts, and it was finished, and I liked it a lot. But I was like, oh man, there's bands like Snarky Puppy now, and like Ghost Note, and it's not as good as those guys.
But it's different than those guys, though.
It definitely has its own sound to it.
Yeah,
that was my thinking at the time, and I kind of, and also I was going through some like really heavy personal shit.
Yeah,
that kind of mentally paralyzed me for like years.
Yeah, that can happen. I know how that is. That can.
Yeah, I was kind of getting by doing the bare minimum, just showing up to easy gigs to get paid. And during quarantine, I busted out the record. I hadn't listened to it in like 4 years, and I was like, "This is good."
Yeah, it's definitely fucking good.
This thing may have gone out of style and then come back in by this point.
Dude, I don't know. It definitely still sounds fresh, and the record sounds crisp. I mean, I've been listening to it on YouTube a bit, and it like I just like it. I mean, what I feel like the lazy take is that just coming from somebody who's a huge Humphreys fan and has seen Humphreys play a ton of times and over a long span of time, like it reminds me some of the construction, some of the vibe where you're doing jazzy stuff that has like a little bit of a rock grit to it over disco beats and like R&B beats and stuff like that. And it's like that proggy kind of amalgamation like you were talking about just kind of reminds me of that a little bit, but stuff that I've always liked, it's just a harder and more modern take at a lot of this stuff.
Thank you, man. Dude, that means a lot, dude. I really appreciate that. I love Humphreys. And yes, we're definitely in the same kind of like ideal of we like what we like and we're going to play it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not following any genre boundaries. I don't play that game.
Yeah, but that's cool. That's what keeps it exciting for fans, man. And that's why at Fred, it's going to be nice to see a late night set that varies a little bit away from what other bands are doing. I mean, you got Dawes doing Black Sabbath set there, which is going to be an interesting set. Like Goose is going to do an acoustic set, and there's just going to be all this stuff going on. That's
wait, who's doing the Black Sabbath set?
Dawes is actually going to be doing a Black Sabbath set. They're playing two sets, and like I guess they're going to play one of their original music and then
one they're just doing Paranoid.
Yeah,
the entire album.
Whoa,
yeah, it's gonna be cool as shit.
Oh my god, I'm definitely gonna catch that.
I know. Part of it is like I know people are somewhat sleeping on this fest, man, and I know it's a little bit expensive. I know the timing is tough, with everything that's going on this year, but this festival has a lot of cool stuff set up to go. And like you said, you're happy to jump in with people and play. I'm sure other people will be. It's going to be a really cool family vibe. So we're gonna have a lot of very cool, very new stuff, very fresh music coming.
I can't wait.
It's gonna be fantastic.
We've definitely got a few surprises in store.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Excellent. Well, I'm just about everyone in this room is super stoked to see the set.
Some actually will.
Dude,
some of us will be on board. It's okay.
I'm stoked to be on board with this man, Greg Knight, dude. He is a fucking master.
Yes, he is. We're thrilled to be on board with him as well.
Yeah.
No.
Every time I'm like, hey, man, you got an idea for this? He's like, here's the perfect idea.
Yeah,
right there. I had it ready before you asked.
I just have to get, used to getting them done on time.
The people's publicist.
Not my forte, but...
Well, Cronin, thank you for hopping on with us today. We are stoked for Fred. We are so pumped about the new album. If you're listening, check it out. Facebook.com/ElephantProof or at ElephantProof on Instagram. Find the album there. Cronin. EP. What do you what do you want to leave our listeners with?
What was I going to say? Wait.
We leave our listeners with blank space all of the time, and it's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to tell you. I have that the official press release finished about our trip to Norway.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
So I'll have to make a post about that in the next couple of days.
I will. I'll get back to you with the perfect idea on how to get it out.
People's publicists hard at work.
Guys, thank you so much for having me, man. I really can't wait to see you guys down there.
No, thanks for joining us, man. It was good talking to you today.
Yeah, thanks.
You guys too, man. Have a great rest of the night. All right.
Oh yeah, you too.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, bye.
Peace.
Great Beyond Podcast, aka your favorite ElephantProof podcast. We're here with the drummer of ElephantProof, formerly known as Kevin, now known as Ben Atkin. Ben, how are you today?
I'm doing excellent. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Glad to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me. I've been listening to all the episodes and loving this Not Goose podcast that you guys are doing.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. We've been listening to the EP very recently.
Yeah.
More times than one,
actually,
definitely.
quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, and...
awesome, thank you.
So we got some background from Cronin that the recordings are actually from a few years back. So I wanted to confirm with you. So that's your drumming circa, what, 2013, 2014?
2014, yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah, it was a while ago.
So how would you describe your drumming then as opposed to, what we've been hearing recently in the Goose Project, let alone the two projects, just over time, how you've changed, really?
Yeah, well, that was right at, right in my Berkeley days when I was into all the funk fusion hip hop stuff. And at that time, I think all the jam stuff was pretty new to me. But at the same time, now, this is my world. I love the jam scene. And, I just... called you guys back late because I was watching the Fish stream, didn't want to miss that jam. And this is my world now, but that style is a whole other part to my playing that I love.
Right.
So I'm really pumped to get to bring that back and have that counterbalance to, stylistically what we're doing in Goose.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what I'm most excited to hear. And what I was kind of talking to Cronin about a little bit before was just that bringing another varied and a unique and a diverse sound to Fredfest, where we're going to be hearing some stuff that's kind of in the same wavelength as Goose. And and you guys are going to come in with something that's a little bit harder. I told Sean was a lazy take would be, comparing it to Humphreys a little bit, but in that same vein, there's actually a realistic comparison to be made with the way you guys segment songs and how you were doing, like I said to him, some jazz stuff over those disco and R&B beats, but it's a grittier kind of rock guitar and the cool synth stuff that Doc is doing. So we kind of asked Sean this, but we'd like your take on it too, as far as the influences on ElephantProof and what kind of made you guys compile this really unique sound. Where does it come from?
Yeah, so ElephantProof, actually, I met those guys at a rehearsal for a pop singer.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me. I was what,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, so that was when you go to music school and no matter what style of music you may love to play the most, there's also, an aspect of, paying the bills and just being a professional and, a professional musician and all the senses of it, I guess.
Yeah.
I played for a lot of pop singers, which were not my favorite music, but were really fun challenges and, learned a lot from doing those. But yeah, we found ourselves, we're at a rehearsal and I'm with all these people I never met before playing these pop songs. And in between takes, we just start kind of jamming and we find out that all of a sudden we're locking on these crazy fusion things and having a blast doing that. And then, Cronin, I think, hit me up for a gig. I think ElephantProof had done a couple of gigs before with another drummer. And they hit me up and we played this gig at this tiny little hole in the wall in South Boston. And it was one of the most fun shows I've ever played. And then we just kept going from there.
Yeah, dude. And that echoes a lot of what Sean was saying too. But I take personal offense. I'm a huge pop fan, so when people, kind of say, oh, it's not my favorite music, I find them suspect. But, we'll get into that later.
That's fair.
So, Ben, what are you most excited for the Fred audience to see from your set? Is it purely musical, or is it visual? Do you have dance moves?
I do have dance moves, but that's not related to any of this. The dance moves will not be in the set. The dance moves only come out on very rare occasions. But this set, I mean, honestly, like ElephantProof was known for just being a dance party. We would rage these like basement parties in Alston and pack out these places and late night, and I'm really pumped for people to experience like the vibe that comes from this band. I think Sean Cronin has a pretty wild frontman persona, and it's not a persona. It's him. It's just him. He's a wild,
straight up personality,
crazy person in the best way. Yeah, and the whole band, like we're having a blast doing what we're doing, and especially it's been so long doing this. Like I can't wait. I'm going to Boston. I don't know when this is coming out, but as of right now, I don't know how time traveling works with podcasts, but I'm going to that was you can edit that out, right?
No, we won't. I mean, it's fair to our viewers because they know that our listeners, because none of this comes out at any given time. We just all of a sudden like have a podcast and then we don't for a while, and then we do. Yeah, so we're hoping this comes out soon, but we'll see.
Well, I'm going to Boston next week. I've been talking with the guys. We got a good few days of just getting together and playing music, so we're very excited for that.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, and I feel like it's probably been a little while since you guys obviously had the original recordings for this album. So, Cronin was mentioning you're playing live. The presentation live is something that's totally unique. Like you guys are gonna basically play the structure of these songs, but have so much space to go in. Did you notice a difference rehearsing now as opposed to like way back then?
Yeah, well, I mean, one other major thing, for people who don't know ElephantProof that have just heard the album, very similarly to how, people say Moon Cabin and Goose's studio stuff as a kind of different vibe than the live stuff. ElephantProof is, we stretch out. And with the thing is we build our sets kind of like DJ sets, and we don't stop, and we transition from one thing to the next.
But that was kind of some of the stuff that we're talking about with Sean, that he was talking about the segments and obviously the variation and what you guys are playing, and even on the same tracks, but how the album still sounds like a cohesive whole. It's still like all tastes like ElephantProof, essentially. I know what you taste like. So like it kind of all has that same vibe going for it, even though it's pretty eclectic and pretty varied. And it kind of just keeps flowing even through these very different parts. So I think to see that live, I was texting you earlier when I was actually listening to this album, and you had said we can't wait to stretch out some of these songs live, and Sean kind of echoed the same sentiment. That you guys took these pieces and made a kind of cohesive, tight whole, but when it comes to the live show, it's a whole different game for all of you.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of improv in there, and it's exciting to us, because in the same way we don't know what's going to happen for the most part, and we're just, trying to get from one part to the next and just keep this vibe going, and try to connect with everyone as much as we can with it.
Nice. And so as far as it goes, I mean, you guys had this marquee late night set in the forest, which Bruce has promised our listeners will get weird if he has anything to do with it. But kind of zooming out and looking at Fred as a whole, this is the first Goose Festival per se.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
I guess.
Thank you.
What are some of the other acts you're looking forward to seeing, in just a few weeks?
And possibly sitting in with.
Possibly.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know anything about that, but as far as the bands,
okay.
I mean, it's a really cool eclectic lineup. Some of it are names that I'm not as familiar with, and that I'm excited or new, and then others like Corey Wong, I'm pumped about. He's been like one of my favorite artists over the last couple of years. So that's awesome. But everyone, I mean, the whole mix, it's really eclectic. It's cool. And I think the ElephantProof late night is going to be kind of a good balance to everything else that's going on.
Yeah. I've been telling people, and in all seriousness, because obviously I would usually be fucking with you, but the ElephantProof set is something that ever since the announcement I've been really most psyched for, and kind of trying to hype other people up about, telling them it could be one of the best sets of the weekend. Not, putting any pressure on you or the guys, but expect some big things from that late night set. But I mean, the music's just perfect for it. I think the sound and the vibe is going to be really perfect for it, and a different, that kind of different juxtaposition, all the other music that's going to be there.
I mean, I think we kind of all realize that we're put in a situation where if we perform well, we get to see Bruce's beautiful, clean white Skechers just shuffling in the greatest way possible. And there's no greater motivation. And I think it's just gonna, it's gonna flow really well. It's gonna come naturally.
A tear came to my eye as you mentioned one of the top tier performance footwear companies in the United States. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
trying to help you get that sponsorship.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, eventually.
I need the money and free sneakers.
Ben, we've been talking to you. We talked to Cronin. It's gotten us really excited for Fred, but I'm wondering, do you see the show going on the road outside of Fred and possibly playing shows or other festivals on your own?
Yeah, I would love to. I think all of us, we have a lot going on, so I don't think we're looking at any, major long tours or anything like that. Right. But anywhere, when I have time in between Goose and when we can all get on the same schedule, I think we'd all love to come out and play some late nights at festivals and some little runs here or there as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
we make the fans happy for sure. It would make me happy. That's
all three of us, or at least two of us, will be there.
Yeah. People's publicist can't be
bothered.
All right, no, enough about me. So one question I have as a person who will not be at Fred, but is thinking ahead at my bright future of the music I'll see. Goose has brought on a few Vasudo and Great Blue tracks back, from resurrected them over the years and brought them onto set lists. Do you see the band covering any ElephantProof in the future, or do you think that stuff is too hot to handle?
That's a really interesting question. I've never thought about that. It's kind of funny. I don't think we would. I'd be open to it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a funny question.
Well, yeah, you guys won't play a Pinch of Satan? I could just see Peter's face taking a solo on that.
Krampus's workshop or something.
Yeah.
That would be pretty awesome.
It's like the one time he doesn't smile on stage. Oh, what's happening? Peter, okay?
Peter Krampus on spot.
Yeah, Krampus. Is he passing a kidney stone? Or?
Well, Ben, thank you for heading down the pathway with us on this non-Goose podcast this evening. Most of the people here are really stoked for Fred. I'm stoked for Fred, although I won't be there. But I know this is going to be one of the marquee sets of the weekend, and we're just pumped that ElephantProof is back. So thanks for hopping on with us tonight.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm pumped for Fred as well. And I think even more pumped that I was just on The Great Beyond. I'm trying not to fanboy here.
No, I know it's hard.
This has been an experience. I've loved every minute of it, and you guys are killing it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Glad to have you here. We can't wait to have you on again.
Yeah, get back to that fish show.
Enjoy set 2, Ben.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Thank you. Night, guys.
All right, see you
later, Ben. Huge thank you to Ben Atkin and Sean Cronin of ElephantProof for joining us and heading down the pathway. This is not a Goose podcast. We're getting ready to dance all night.
I was so ready for that to keep going. I tried so hard not to breathe.
Yeah, that was good, though.
We had it.
I hope you're ready to dance all night at Fred Festival. Huge thank you to Ben Atkin and Sean Cronin of ElephantProof for joining us. So great to hear about the history of the band, and man, I can't wait to see what they do next.
Yeah. I guess you won't be seeing that anytime soon. Since once again, we, as in Joey and I, will be down there as in FredFest, getting all of your reactions to this day one late night set with ElephantProof, as well as all of the rest of the amazing sets at Fred. So be on the lookout for Joey and I for a chance to be featured on this podcast. provided we remember the mics.
Yeah, let's jot that down. The Great Beyond was engineered by Robbie Chemical at Gary's Electric in Brooklyn, New York. On behalf of my co-hosts, I'd like to thank Cronin and Ben once again for taking the time to speak with us today, our manager, Kathleen Rothschild, and most of all, you, the listeners, for tuning in. Be sure to catch a ride with us next time, and if you haven't heard...
ElephantProof got your fix. Baby, come over here and whisper into my ear that you want me.